Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Emily here, and I am so sorry that it's been a hot minute since my last video. Life has just been insanely crazy lately. But here I've got a fun card for you using the Concord and Ninth Mosaic Turnabout stamp set. So I've got my Hero Arts full-size Misty here, and a piece of cardstock that I drew lines going from corner to corner, creating that X, and then I laminated so I can reuse it. I have the alignment guide here for that stamp set, and I line the X up on that alignment guide with the X on that piece of cardstock that I laminated. And I pull off the stamp set from its backing, and I will line those up with the images or with the marks on the alignment guide. And this just ensures that it's all lined up properly for stamping. So when I have got all those placed where they need to be, I close the door of my Misty and pick up that stamp, and then I will remove that alignment guide off of the stamp. And I'm using a 6x6 piece of cardstock, so I didn't need that laminated piece in there. I just used it for lining everything up. So I've got my Gina K Key Lime ink for this first color. I will stamp that down, and then I will rotate my paper clockwise. And then the next color is Blue Lagoon. And after each color, you rotate it, and then that gives it that fun mosaic look when it's all done. So then the next color that I'm using is the Gina K Jelly Bean Green ink. And then for my last and final color, I am using the Gina K Sea Glass ink. So when I finish stamping down that last color, I go ahead and bring out my Tonic Guillotine paper trimmer, and I will trim that inked stamped panel down to a 4 by 5.5 inch piece. And I kind of offset it so that the center of that mosaic design is on to the left hand side. And then I've got a piece of my Cougar 110 pound cardstock and a scoring board, and I score that at 5.5 inches to create a top folding A2 sized note card. I crease that with my Teflon bone folder, and then here I'm looking at the placement of it, and I don't like the white on the side of it, so I grabbed a piece of black cardstock and then again pulled out my Tonic Guillotine paper trimmer and trimmed off a piece that's, I don't know, just over a 1/4 inch wide. The size doesn't really matter as long as it's enough to cover up that gap. And then when I've decided that I think I like the black for the edge of that, I pull out my sentiment, which is the Heidi Swapp Love You stamp set, and the sentiment is just I like totally love you, which I thought was kind of fun. So then I've got that extra piece of the black cardstock that I cut that little strip from, and I place that into my mini Misty, and then I will place this stamp down into the center of that, pick that up with the door of my Misty, and then treat that with my anti-static powder bag. Have my Versamark ink here, and then I will ink that up, and I did that twice to make sure that I got it really nice and good coverage, I guess you could say. So then I bring in my Hero Arts white embossing powder and cover this. And when I mean that I did it twice, it was that I inked it, stamped it, heat embossed it, put it back in my Misty, and did that a second time so that I got really good coverage. So there were no little tiny holes or any of the black that you could see through the embossing powder. And that's how that looks when it's all finished. And when it was dry, I rubbed my hand over it to remove any of that excess powder on there. And then I've got that little black piece of paper and my AdTech permanent tape runner that I use on the back of that, and then I will place that onto the right hand side of that top folding note card. I will use my scissors to trim off the excess at the top and the bottom of the card. And then I will bring in my Scotch 3M foam tape and place that all over the back of that stamped panel to raise that up and give it some dimension. I had a little bit of overhang there, so I trimmed that off, and then I will remove all of that release paper. And I had a little extra piece sticking on top of another piece of that foam. I just didn't want there to be a weird little lump in there, so I trimmed that away. And here I tried to line it up, but I just wasn't feeling very confident in how I'd be able to line it up, so I brought out my Mini Misty, pulled out the foam insert, and placed the card base in there, and then placed the panel on top of it and pushed it into place. I got that idea from another YouTuber. I can't remember who it was, but that was someone else on YouTube that had the idea of using your Misty to align things. And then I've got my scissors here, and I fussy cut out that sentiment, cutting off the heart at the very top. And then again, bring in some foam tape, and in the process of all this, pulling a piece of foam tape off my scissors, I cut my finger. That's why there's a band-aid that magically appeared in the middle of the video. So I placed that sentiment down where I want it, in the center of that mosaic design, and then I've got my Nuvo drops, the ebony black color. I will place a few randomly on the card, a couple down at the bottom right hand of the sentiment, and at the top left hand side, and then a little bit on the bottom left hand side, to kind of scatter it and tie in some more of the black onto that card. And that finishes the card for today. It's so simple, super easy to do, but I love how it turned out. Sometimes those simple and quick cards are just so fun and so beautiful in the end. So I really love this one. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope you have a good weekend.